Welcome to what I believe will be an illuminating episode of Let's Go. Over the last few weeks, we've been doing this Traction series where we've been talking both about rocket fuel and the book Traction, all around the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS. I previously hosted Mark Winters, who is the co-author of Rocket Fuel. I've also had an implementer of EOS, Damon Neff. And then last week, I had Mark O'Donnell, who's the visionary for EOS Worldwide. We've covered a lot of areas around the visionary and integrator roles and really the value of EOS. But today we're going to get personal, because today I'm visiting with my partner and the integrator for HireBetter, Cisco Sacasa. Cisco was recently promoted to CEO at HireBetter. We're going to dig into that a little bit more, but just know that he's responsible for our operational performance as well as scaling the organization. Prior to joining HireBetter, Cisco was a CFO and COO at a number of middle market companies, including BuzzPoints and Bonitos. And he started his career at Deloitte & Touche and later was instrumental in launching Dell's software business unit. Cisco has both a bachelor's and a master's in accounting from Florida International, as well as an MBA from the esteemed Michigan School of Business. He is a licensed CPA and he holds several board positions around Texas. Cisco, man, I really appreciate you joining me today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Talk about our journey and where we are and where we're going. So looking forward to it.
Now, you promised me that you wouldn't talk any shit about me. So is that still accurate?
Absolutely not. We're going to give it good. Going to have a good time with it.
All right, man. So in previous episodes, as I mentioned, we've talked about the visionary and the integrator relationship. We're not going to go into too much detail on that just because we've covered it in a lot of other areas. As I mentioned, we're going to get super personal. Today, we're going to talk a lot about our relationship and how it works, how it doesn't work, and really give people an inside perspective. I'd like this to be a back and forth, not a Q&A necessarily, but really an interview of both of us going back and forth about our relationship. Is that fair?
Yeah, that sounds good. I think that's the way to go. Let's do it.
All right, great. So let's start with the basics. As I mentioned before, we've talked about the visionary integrator before. So here's just a few high-level thoughts, and we'll dig into it. I believe that a visionary has lots of ideas. Some of those ideas may even be good. They often have strong relationship skills, maybe strong biz dev skills. Maybe they can sell ice to Eskimos. They can inspire a team to climb a mountain. But the integrator is the one who makes it happen. They're the one that turn that vision into reality. They're the ones with the plan to actually scale the mountain, assigning tasks and setting schedules and really holding people accountable along the way. They prioritize those various initiatives and make sure that shit gets done. Does that resonate with you? How does that sound from your perspective?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I like to say that I make sure that the trains run on time, right? The visionary has a vision of where we're going, so what destinations those trains will go to. And my job is to make sure the trains run on time, that we get to the right place at the right time. And it's you need both, right? You have to have the vision, direction of where you're going, and then you need that integrator to come back and make sure you get there the right time, right place, and on budget, of course.
I like to think that I'm a solid leader, but I'm a horrible manager. And I've been around other visionaries in my company before, and we talk a lot and have a great time, but we don't get anything done. And by the same token, I think when you get a lot of integrators together with no visionary, there's a lot of taskmasters without a lot of long-term direction. So definitely need them both. So, hey, Cisco, you're relatively new to the world of EOS, but I know that you've espoused those principles in your past without really using the term EOS. Talk to me about your past and also your discovery of the EOS system.
Yeah, so throughout my career, I came in through the finance ranks, right? So the finance and accounting function. But throughout my entire career, I've always been operationally minded. So I've always focused on operational efficiencies. And those, a lot of the skill sets and terminology and, methodologies that are in EOS were kind of innate in the things that I did throughout my career. I just maybe didn't necessarily have the exact words and the exact methodology, but a lot of the focus process were very similar to what I've done in my career. So when I discovered EOS, I read the book Traction and Rocket Fuel and a few of the other ones. It really resonated with me and it made a ton of sense. And when I came on board with HireBetter, it made absolute sense for our firm to implement EOS, and it's been a great ride.
Yeah, similarly, I discovered rocket fuel about probably 6 years ago when a client found me because they wanted someone to help them find an integrator. And I read it, and it really opened my eyes to things that I had known, I guess, throughout my career, but I hadn't really put it into words. And the book, especially with the visionary and the definition, helped me understand who I was, and also gave me license to be who I was. Frankly, it gave me the license not to try to be who I wasn't, meaning that I needed a strong operational person at my side. So we'll get into that a little bit later. I wanted to actually let me touch a little bit more on that. I think I speak for a lot of entrepreneurs, or especially a lot of visionary entrepreneurs, when I say I know that in order to be successful, a company needs to have systems and processes and infrastructure and accountability and things like that in order to scale. But I have no idea how it works. And on the flip side, that's what you do. You're really good at that. Tell me a little bit about the joy you get out of all those things I just mentioned, because I hate it with a passion.
Yeah, and also something else you mentioned. Understanding my role as the integrator also gave me the license to not be apologetic for the things that I'm not, right? So I'm not the one on stage. I'm not the one with the big client relationships. I'm not the one that's the kind of come out with a creative breakthrough on the strategy for whatever not we're doing. And before, I felt like I needed to develop that skill set because I didn't have it. And once I realized that, no, there's a role for the integrator and a role for the visionary, and I don't need to apologize for not being one or the other. I know what I'm good at, and let's focus on that. And then I went to seek partnering with somebody that has those skills instead of me trying to be something that I'm not. So that gives me also the license to be comfortable in my skin and do the things that I do. On the kind of processes and procedures and all that stuff, yeah, there's a satisfaction, right? When you put a plan in place, you set goals, you assign goals to the team, then you hold the teams accountable. And lo and behold, at the end of the quarter, boom, we hit our numbers. And there's a satisfaction of like, we've made it. In next quarter, we get to do it again. Set new goals, push them down to the teams, hold them accountable, and do it again. And there's a satisfaction right in a rhythm that you get into of planning, executing, hit your numbers, plan, execute, hit your numbers. And as you do that, you elevate, right, onwards and upwards, and you elevate upward ever higher as a company as you start getting into that cadence of hitting your numbers.
Cisco, I got to tell you, you're boring me to tears. All I care about is growth and revenue and leading the team. I don't understand all that other stuff. No, seriously, I really appreciate the fact that as I mentioned, I am a good leader, but I'm a horrible manager, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs fit in that bucket. And once we find an amazing partner and integrator, it is beautiful music. So, hey, let's talk a little bit about the yin and yang of the two, and I'll dive into a few topics, and you can add your own topics if you want. But let's start with hiring and interviewing. Let's think of them as two different things and different ways that a visionary and an integrator may approach that. And so I'll start, and that is especially in the interviewing phase. As a visionary entrepreneur, I got two things going for me, and the same things go against me. I'm an optimist, and I'm also a pretty good salesperson. And so as an optimist, I see the good in everybody. So I see a candidate come through, no matter what their skills are, I will find a way to like them, and I'll figure out there might be an opportunity for them to work with us at HireBetter. At the same time, I'm a salesperson. So I'm talking and selling them, telling them about the vision. I'm trying to explain all the awesome things we're doing at HireBetter. But at the end of the day, I don't know much about them as their ability to perform, because they probably haven't had a chance to tell me because I'm talking all the flipping time. As my brother says, my wife didn't talk to me for 2 weeks because she didn't want to interrupt me. But tell me a little bit about how you approach interviewing and how it would be different.
Each interview is different because it's different for each company. Ultimately, what you got to know is, what are the company values? Right? And our values are very clear, right? We know our 6 values. We know what they are. We live our values. It's not something we just have written on the wall. It's something that we live every day. Every team member on our company knows exactly what our values are. We live them every single day. And ultimately, when we do interviewing, is you're looking for, is this individual going to fit the company culture? Do they live those values? And it's hard to fake values, right? It's like, better together, right? Are you a team player or are you not? You can maybe fake it a little bit, but be passionate. You can only fake it a little bit. And as we start looking at the company values and going through the interview process, you're looking for those, in our case, our 6 values. And does that individual exemplify those 6 values? And if the answer is no, then I don't care how skilled they are, right? Because they do got to have the skill for the job. You're going to find lots of candidates that have the skills, but do they exemplify the value system that we have in our company? And you're looking for somebody that has absolutely a shining star across the value system. If there's a doubt or question about any of those, really this is not the right place for them. They're not the right fit for us, and we need to keep finding the right individual.
Well, for me, that's easier said than done, but I totally respect that. And that's why I need you involved, or I need and the team involved. In fact, you're familiar with me telling the team many times that don't let anybody get through that you're not 1,000% sure can do the job, because I don't want to be in charge of selection. I want to be, or my job is to sell the vision and to tell them what we're doing and seeing if they're a culture fit, as opposed to really screening and vetting them. So, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs have the same problem. Again, it's a problem and an opportunity at the same time. All right, so let's switch gears a bit, Cisco. Let's talk about management. Again, I know that management is very key to the success of an organization, but I suck at holding people accountable, and that's a big part of management. Tell me a little bit about how an integrator approaches it and why it works.
Yeah. So in EOS, there's something called LMA, right? The leadership, management, and accountability. The first thing is you got to have the right leadership. Everybody needs to know where we're going. So providing that vision, right? Long-term vision, short-term vision, and that we manage them by setting their goals, right? They know exactly what their numbers are. They know exactly what their big rocks are for the next 90 days. Once everybody's clear on what their job is, what their goals are, and what their big rocks are for the next 90 days, then it's relatively easy to hold them accountable, because numbers, it's kind of hard to fudge numbers. You're either hitting your numbers or you're not, right? You're either tracking to them or you're not. So as we have our, one-on-ones, we always talk about, all right, how are we tracking to our rocks? Are we tracking to our numbers? And are we trending towards the number or are we not? If we're trending to a number, is what can we do to go faster, right? It's fun to hit your numbers. It's a lot more fun to beat your numbers. So what else can we do? What do you need? How can I help to help you actually go faster and beat your numbers? If we're falling behind on the numbers, then what is it that we're doing, right? What is it that you're doing? What are you going to do to get back on track? And the focus is, what are you doing? Because I'm not going to do your job for you. What are you going to do to hit your job? If you need anything from me, you need to tell me, but you need to hit your numbers. So accountability comes down to, understanding where we're going and understanding having clear roles and responsibilities and have clear goals, clear numbers, and clear rocks. And after that, it becomes fairly simple. Nothing easy about it, but definitely simple.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things where it makes perfect sense, and I understand it has to be done. I just don't know how to do it. I come from the mindset of just go create. What is our goal as much as you can, and that just doesn't work when you're really trying to scale an organization. So, hey, the last thing that might be interesting for us to talk about is let's talk about the differences in how we process a new offering or a new geography or some opportunity that may be out there. And why don't you go first this time?
So whenever we're trying to do either a new product offering, new geography, new something, right? And that's what you need. You gotta kind of come back to, all right, what's our mission? What's our vision? What are we trying to do? Does that fit, right? What we're trying to accomplish as a firm? right? HireBetter, we're in the talent management business, right? If somebody came that we want to open a, shoe retailer, I say, well, that doesn't fit.
It's talent management. Why couldn't we do that? I don't understand.
That doesn't fit our mission and vision, right? So that one's obviously silly and ridiculous, and it wouldn't make any sense. But it's very easy to get distracted, right? So it's a fine balance between chasing rainbows and being distracted, and a brilliant idea that you should go do. And it comes down to, having those same page meetings, right? Where you have an opportunity as a visionary to come up with, you call it vomiting, right? Or like, here are my ideas, right? And my job is to listen and process and then identify which ones fit our mission vision that we're trying to do and which ones have legs and which one has the potential. And then having a dialogue, right? An open and honest dialogue. Again, coming back to trust, because no matter what your strategy, no matter what your plans, no matter what your company does, you are going to stop. You are going to hit a ceiling, and you need those ideas, that innovation to break through, right? And that's where I look at I look at you, Kurt, as a visionary of always coming up with those breakthrough ideas that are going to get us to the next level, right? But how do we find those? How do we define what those are? And that comes down to that dialogue and the same page meetings of getting together and go, okay, that's the one. This is the one we're going to go do. And then we make it happen.
Yeah, Cisco, there's a couple of things you said there that I wanted to touch on. The first one is the fact that you tell me to bring you all the ideas so you can sift through them and we can talk about it and go back and forth. Because as I think I mentioned with Mark O'Donnell, there's 100 ideas. There's one or two that we might be able to implement right away. And it's a genius idea. There's probably 5 or 10 that maybe next quarter, next year, next, decade, if you will. And there's a whole bunch of fluff, like the shoe shop. I thought that was a great idea, but evidently you're going to poo-poo that one.
Sell sneakers.
And the second one is in my past and seeing a lot of our entrepreneurial clients have a similar propensity to get people to start working on their ideas before they go through the filter, I'll call it, the integrator plays. And so before you came on board, I had a bad habit of giving these assignments for these new projects or new offerings or new, international expansion to folks. And it's hard for them to do that and manage their day job. And so I would get frustrated that they're not implemented. I called it. I said we had an execution problem. Reality is we had a bad CEO problem, and because I had that title CEO, people often try to do what I asked them to do, and it led us into some tough places because we just didn't have that operational excellence, so to speak. So thank you, and thank you to all the integrators out there who bring that operational excellence to fold.
One key there is the concept of capacity, right? In a factory, it's pretty easy to understand what your capacity for production is. What are you currently producing? And if you have slack in the system, then you can take that extra project, right, until you have maximum optimal capacity, I would call it. In our type of business, it's hard to determine what is our capacity. We have optimal capacity, and you take on that project. So that's where, my role comes in as integrator, right? I know how all the pieces fall into place. I know where the bottlenecks are, and I understand ultimately what our capacity as a team to produce. With the current construct of the team that we currently have and their current skill sets and their capabilities, then I understand the capacity. And when we have a project, I know whether we can take it on or not, right? And it's not a science. There's more art than science there, but that's the beauty of my role, right? Understanding how all the pieces fit together, that I can visualize it of like, okay, I know we can take 1 or 2 more projects and we get it done. And we have, not only we have the capacity, but we also have the skill sets on the team to get it done. There's other ways, right? You can always hire outside help. When there is no capacity in the team, you could go hire an outside resource, an interim resource, a consultant to come and help you with that. So there's other creative ways to get those done. And we do that as well. But even then, there's limits, right? Because even if you bring consultants, you still got to manage the consultants. So there's a capacity of being able to manage the interim consulting resources. So there is a limit on that too. And then there's cash. How much you're limited by cash and capital on how many projects you can take on, and you put it all together. And that's where you and I get together. I got, all right, based on our capacity in our team, I think we can take these 2 projects. Based on the limitation of our capital, we could take this one. And then this is where you should be pushing back and going, no, that's not fast enough. We need 2, we need 3, we need 4, right? And we find the right balance to get to the right decision.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's striking that balance and having that healthy discussion to determine what the answer is. Hey, there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on. I know we're butting up against the clock here, but a couple of concepts I wanted to talk about. One was if I'm an entrepreneur and I bring in a new integrator, it's my first time, there's a chance it's not going to work out. And part of that is because the team that's come up through the ranks with the visionary oftentimes are used to that access that they get to the visionary. They're used to maybe even sometimes being used to not being held accountable. The integrator really by definition is going to do things different than the visionary. Oftentimes they're building that systems and structure to scale. They're holding people accountable. They're creating goals and objectives. And so people often go around the integrator because they like that relationship. So I'd like for you to touch on that. And then I've got another thing as well I want to talk about.
Hey, that's a great point. The way I approach it is first I have, deep one-on-one discussions with the team, right? When I was coming on board, just listening to their problems, to their issues. Every company has issues, right? Every marriage, every friendship, every relationship, every company has issues. And I wanted to understand the issues. And as I have these interviews, or I get to listen to the interviews and listen deeply and probing, right? Because a lot of times they don't want to tell you, so you kind of have to probe some more, and sometimes come back and probe some more. Get all the issues on the table. Once we have all the issues on the table, then I can come back with a proposal and solutions, right? Like what do we want to tackle first, second, third, and then work with the team on getting those one, 2, or 3 done, and getting alignment of what 1, 2, and 3 done. It's amazing what happens once you have like the trust that there's no secret agenda, right? We're working on the things that you told me are important to you. We've set the priority together, right? There's alignment on what we're working on. So then that need to go around me to go to the visionary kind of goes away, because what are you going to go talk to them about? We've already agreed we're going to do 1, 2, and 3. If you're going to go talk to them about number 7 and number 8, I'm not really sure what we're trying to accomplish. So when that happens, it's having that open dialogue, right? The same trust relationship that you and I have also is with the leadership team, right? And talking about, all right, why were we chasing a rainbow number 7 that we all agreed that we were not going to do, right? Have priorities changed? Are there new issues we need to talk about? But once we have that alignment, that stuff kind of starts falling by the wayside, because if you're not aligned on the top priorities, then either you need to find yourself another team, or you need to be open and honest about whether you're on board or not, right? And you got to get through all that stuff, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But once you have that trust and that alignment and that open communication, then those things just kind of happen naturally and falls into place.
I think that's a good reminder, Cisco, for the visionaries out there. Not everybody on your team is going to be able to make the transition from a founder-led organization to a more professional run organization. The other 2 things I wanted to touch on is, I'll mention them both at the same time because there's some relation, and it's really the visionaries' role going forward. And the first one is, it's hard for visionaries to let go. There's so many things that we've been doing, and we have our hands on everything. And so it's hard to let go of pieces of that. So that's number 1. And number 2 is, and this is going to be more maybe an emotional thing for visionaries, and that is we may not feel, once we've handed over a lot of things to the team, we may not feel like we're doing our part, because we're used to working 100 hours a week. We're used to being on call and everybody calling us with problems, and we're the solution guy and whatever. It's sometimes you lose some sense of value when things are working well, if that makes sense. So comment on any of that stuff that you just heard.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Some part of the beauty of the visionary, right, is the big relationships. the big strategic partnerships, the big customer relationships, the big client relationships, the big vendor relationships, right? Making those big relationships happen. When you're bogged down and running the business day to day, then you don't have time to go nurture and build those relationships. You're limited by how many and how big those relationships can get. So as you let go of the vine and that integrator takes over and starts running and dealing with all the issues and the muckety muck that happens day to day, that frees up your time, but more importantly, frees up your brain to really think big thoughts and be creative and go after those bigger relationships. And you should have the clarity of thought to go do that, right? When you're in the business day to day, it's just really difficult to lift your head and look above the clouds and think about where we're going and go build those relationships. So yeah, at the beginning, you lose that adrenaline, right? Of being in that day to day, of the euphoria of the storm of day to day. But that should come with some clarity, right? And being able to channel that energy into going after those big, right? Going to call it elephant hunting. I don't know if that's politically correct to say that anymore, but I'm a little old school, so I've always called it elephant hunting. And it's like, go elephant hunting, right? Go find the big clients, go find the big relationships. I'll deal with the stuff back in the trenches and making sure things get done. Trust that it's going to get done. So go get it.
Well, Cisco, because you said that, I'm going to have to give the disclaimer that no elephants were hurt during the filming of this episode of Let's Go.
That's right.
Hey, so let me touch on a couple more things here as we part. The first thing is we've talked in other episodes about the I'll call it the shit show that was 2020 or is 2020. There's a lot of, I don't need to go into the details of what's happened in 2020. You got your first CEO gig during 2020. Welcome to the world of CEOs. Tell us a little bit about your experience and what you've had to deal with in dealing with not only the pandemic and race relations and politics, but also running a company.
Yeah, it's both exhilarating and frustrating, right? Because I came in 2020 as president, so integrator and president. And we had big goals, big plans for 2020. We were setting them in motion. We're getting traction. Things are going well. We were beating plan. I don't know if you remember this, but we were actually ahead of plan when March 15th hit. And all of a sudden, the world stopped, right? Everything stopped. Every decision slowed down. Revenue slowed down. Like everything just slowed down. And then Kurt looks at me and goes, "Tag, you're it."
Not exactly, but okay.
And I had a bit of a banter going, wait, not right now. We're in the middle of a freaking pandemic. Let's get through this and then the transition. But for many reasons, we decided to make the change at the time. It was like, you know what? Let's just rip the Band-Aid. Let's get it done. Let's do it now. So I took over as CEO right in the middle of a pandemic, which, is exhilarating, fun, exciting, at the same time, scary as hell. It's like, OMG, like what in the world? How are we going to get through this? Because at the time, we still don't know, but at the time, we definitely didn't know how long this thing's going to last, right? And we talked about being, bold and aggressive and playing offense, right? And to the outside world, we absolutely did. But behind the scenes, they're like, oh my God, right? It's like the world is imploding and maybe we should pull back and play defense and go hide in a cave somewhere and wait for this thing to be over. I'm glad we didn't do that, right? It was every day we had to come out and go, don't know, don't care what's happening. We're playing offense. We're going for it. We're going to go gain customers. We're going to make a sale. We're going to grow the business. And we did every single day, right? But when you look at the scoreboard, we're down 30%. And it said, you know what? Don't care. COVID, no COVID, don't care. We're going for it. We're going to play offense. And we're going to get the sale and we're going to grow the business. And we absolutely did. And you look at the scoreboard, we're down 20%, right? And we keep pushing and fighting for every inch, right? Every single inch, every single day, every minute. There's no day off, right? It's like every day we're fighting for it. And you look at the scoreboard, we're still down 10%. And it's just like, freaking hell, dude. Like, no matter what we did, And no matter how much we fought and clawed and just absolutely pummeled, right, the economy and like, don't care about COVID, let's go get this done. No matter how much we fought, we were still down, right? But eventually we broke through and we got to September and we hit that inflection point, and all that energy and effort that you and I and the team put into it, eventually it hit. And now we're back. Our business is back to a healthy level. But for a while there, it was like running in quicksand, right? That didn't matter how fast your feet moved, you were just sinking. And it didn't matter how much effort, energy, and how quickly your feet moved. It was just like, walking through molasses and just being in quicksand every day. So that was quite an experience. Everybody experienced the same, right? It wasn't limited to HireBetter. We were all in the trenches together, but luckily we had, an amazing group of other CEOs, partners, vendors, clients, friends that were all in the same muck, and we all helped each other. We all, cheer each other on. We all helped each other's businesses, and eventually we broke through, and now we've made it to the other side, and now we're ready for growth, and we're excited about 2021.
Well, I'm so excited with not only being back to where we wanted to be, but we also did some pretty amazing things during especially the early days of the pandemic. We invested in our new website, which is about to be launched. We invested in a new CRM, applicant tracking system, some new technologies, some new all kinds of exciting things that are foundational for our future growth. And trust me, that would not have been possible without you and the team driving that. Because if it was Kurt pointing every which way, I'd just be frustrated. Yeah. We may not even be here today, as a matter of fact. Hey, a couple more things, and we're with the last couple of minutes. Let me ask you. Tell me, Cisco, one thing about you that we wouldn't know from reading your LinkedIn profile.
Well, I'm a huge 90s grunge music fan. So I love Pearl Jam, the Cranberries, Nirvana.
Cranberries or grunge? Come on, man.
Yeah, they're from that 90s, band. So I don't think you're going to find that in my LinkedIn profile. I don't think you're going to find that anywhere. But I'm a huge fan of that style and that era of music, and I'm a big fan.
Awesome. Well, hey, Cisco, before we leave, is there anything else you'd like to add before we break?
I would like everybody to know that working with Kurt is both a joy, and he's also a big pain in the ass, but ultimately with the good and the bad and the ugly, I take it, and it's been a lot of fun. Awesome.
I would say the same thing, but you're not a pain in the ass, Cisco. You're amazing in every way. Hey, thanks so much for joining me, Cisco. I know it was a big a risk, and I'm willing to take a risk anytime. Integrators aren't so they're a little more risk averse, but thank you for taking that risk and joining me online today. And for all of you out there, thank you for joining us. We're going to be back next week. We've got Kelly Knight, who's the integrator for EOS Worldwide. We're going to continue, and I think this will wrap up our Traction and EOS series, which has been a lot of fun to do. So join us next week for another episode of Let's Go. Until then, keep playing offense. Take that no excuses mindset that we've been preaching from day 2, and let's go.